my part's not going to take that long. I've been asked why I wasn't going to run again, and I told people I put in the paper. My wife's got a serious illness. She's got cancer. She's not doing very well, and family comes first, and I think most of you feel the same. I was looking forward to running and trying to do another 4 years because I'm right in the middle of actually getting some stuff done. But you know, the way it works in the county, it takes 3 commissioners, and on that we don't always see eye to eye. But I'll give you an example real quick. The telecommunications tower that we just had to vote on, the other 2 commissioners went against it. And it's the federal government pushing it. They said, you have to vote for it. Well, the stands the hair up on the back of my neck and said, the federal government's coming to the state of Idaho telling me I have to vote yes to have this tower put in this lady's front yard. We had 35 constituents in that room fighting it. The Horizon's involved with it, where they're a company out of California owned by China. They also have a lot of money. They have 11 places identified, but they wanted this one because there was utilities right there. They didn't want to spend the extra money to do anything else. I went to the site. They said they couldn't enter that in. I said, why? I went there to see. I said, you're telling me I have to go by your evidence, but you tell me and told me I'm not buying off, so I voted against it. Because you put us in office, we're here to represent you, not the federal government. So the other problem with that, the other 2 voted for it, and hey, that's what you get. And the problem is one of them was dead set on not voting for it right up to that day, so that really bothered me. So I'm wondering why he changed his mind. But anyway, I'll get right into it. I'm not running again, but I am here today to endorse the 3 candidates that are here speaking tonight. And the reason why, and you can ask questions after I'm done, is they're the better candidates. I know all the candidates running. I know that these candidates, for example, Rick Aspinall, he's a civil engineer, spent his life in that field, and before that he was a paramedic in a really bad area of Chicago for a long time. So right now the 2 areas we're working in the county are medical, bringing in paramedics and getting set up for the county, and roads and bridges. That's where we spend a lot of money. On that, I think he's the best candidate. I don't want to smear the other candidates, but there's a big difference. Like I said, I know the others. One of them's not even campaigning, who lives here in Garden Valley. You don't see him, you don't see any signs, but he put his name on it. Another one's a good old boy. You want the same, you want a young guy that's a good old boy that really doesn't have the experience in management or leadership. And then the other gal that's in it, you want somebody that couldn't handle being the Republican Central Committee head and had to step down in less than a year because she couldn't handle the job. And then we hired her for the county as a dispatcher, tried to get her through extended training, and then we had to terminate her after 5 weeks because she couldn't grasp the simple things about running dispatch. But she wants to be a commissioner. So these are the things that made up my mind to go for the people that are in this room. There's no comparison. Then you got Warren Grover. He's got a wealth of knowledge, spent his life in the business area. He's also a lieutenant colonel, retired from the Air Force. So he's also educated, got the experience to run the county. Deborah Jackson, highly endorse her because we've had problems in the county with this clerk. She's been in 12 years. She's become a, what do you call it, a professional, yeah, that too. Anyway, she is above, she thinks she runs the county and tells us all the time this is the way we do things. Well, it's not the way you do things. The county commissioner is responsible for ensuring what goes on in the county budget, and everything else. Her issue was we got in a big bind when she got in office, and we failed an audit. The person went to jail, and it was a lot of money. She's been in 12 years. I questioned the audit the other day. It's on the minutes. I said, we need a new auditor. So what she do behind my back, pushes through, got the same auditor that she's had the last 10 years, 9 or 10 years. She didn't want the auditor caught the criminal act and the missing money. That's still not over yet. I'm going to go back, revisit that, and try to get the auditor changed because they've been too friendly. Banks have to change every 2 to 3 years because of those issues. But said I put my heart and soul into it while I was in it, still am. I'll be in until I leave the county. So if you need anything or anything I can do, well, I'm here. But I think you'd be in good hands if you vote for the 3 that are in this room when you talk to them. Is there any questions for me before I introduce the next person? Ask me a hard question, ask me what's going on in the county. I got a lot of dirt, but I don't want to put it out because I find that in the year that I've been in the county, there's a lot of problems. And when an elected official gets in and they self-appoint themselves as above you, oh, this is the one I want to cover. I wrote a Boise County ordinance to hold elected officials accountable under the narcotics law. Our employees are randomly tested for dope. Elected officials will not, because you talk to them and, well, we're in a higher position. No, we're not. We're employed by the citizens of this county. There is none in this state at all. And I brought it between the Lieutenant Governor and Priscilla Gillies, so I think you need it at all levels, because I know potheads in the House, I know potheads in our county, and if I mention the names, I'd have a lawsuit because they're elected officials in this county. I know whose city's got a big drug problem. And a lot of people that live there, unfortunately, are involved in some elected officials. And when I brought it up at the meeting, I said, you know, whatever you do in your own time, if you're a regular citizen, but by God, if you're standing up for this county and representing all of you out there, you should be held to that standard. Because if you're a citizen or a county employee, you're going to be randomly tested. But I can use it because I'm elected, and I know I'm never going to get tested. But I want accountability, so I got that. I'm working with the district attorney, Adam, and getting it implemented. And then we'd like to see it go all the way up to statewide. But that's one thing I'm pushing right now. Is there any questions on that? And the other thing, yeah,
I just wanted to say that because my husband and I are at most of the commissioner meetings and they are fighting him tooth and nail. They do not want to be drug tested, those other 2 commissioners. I'll just say it like it is.
if they vote against it, you'll know why. Because if you don't have anything to hide, why fight it?
Well, you're hired as a commissioner, you're there 24/7, you're not private time.
Right.
You represent our county.
We represent you, we work for you. But they seem to see the other way, and I've got to see that this year, and they put themselves above you and their own personal agendas, which take priority and which makes me sick, because now I see the side of politics. I've never been a politician. I don't like it, but it makes me angry, and it makes me feel sad and anger because I'm not going to be able to stay and fight, and if you don't get people in that are going to fight, you're going to lose everything that you work for and you believe in. You're going to lose your liberty eventually. Yes, sir.
I was just wondering, this area up here in Crouch Garden Valley is growing quickly.
Yeah.
I mean, population-wise, it's growing away. It seems like there's a lot more population up here in this area than there is in Horseshoe Bend, for instance. Even though they say that it's the largest town in the county, but there's, when you look at Terrace Lakes and Castle, you know, all these places around here, we've got a pretty good sized population around here, and yet it seems like most of the resources, you know, are put over towards Idaho City and Horseshoe Bend. We hardly ever see a sheriff's deputy up here, for instance, and whatever, that type of thing, response times. And the other thing is, when it comes to allocation of resources, we get thousands of people up here from the valley that come out to pull off the road wherever, even though there's not campgrounds open, throw the trash out, whatever, tear things up, infrastructure, the roads, and that type of thing. But it seems like this area is a little more forgotten than Horseshoe Bend, Idaho City area.
We're spread thin on deputies, I will say that, on Scott's behalf. But there's a lot of nepotism in the county too.
Used to have.
I could name people that are all related, you know, some of them elected officials, some are ex-wives, but they're all related up there in Idaho City, and they control it. Because the time I mentioned, maybe we should look at a new place to build new buildings, and that would be Horseshoe Bend. It's closer to Ada County where we do business and that. They went I spun the whole world.
I was going to say, almost like that.
And,
They
and,
wanted to have
and like you
houses
said,
of the seat. We have more population.
Well, yeah, they were going basically on what would be the ideal location because of our work and bringing better people in. Idaho City, you have a pool of people there, and they're all related. How are you going to break that? Because some of them say, well, if you move to Horseshoe Bend, I'm not going to drive there and work. Well, we don't need you. We can hire people from Ada County that are higher qualified and bring them in too. But we're the lowest paid in the county, and that's another issue. That's something I'm trying to get done before I leave office.
Most paid.
Road crew starts at 16, 17. The basics for road operators should be no less than 20 to start.
on the topic of marijuana in Idaho City, and as you said, everyone's sort of intermingled, or they've married this sister, or this, you know, they're all somehow related, it seems. And Scott Turner, I like him as a sheriff, but his relatives are in more positions of power. And then I'm at a school board meeting, and this probably shouldn't have even been on the agenda, but it was, so I can mention it. I didn't go behind closed doors with them, but one of the bus drivers, Chris Turner, they kept noticing he was high driving the school bus.
Oh, really?
Right, and so they were trying to figure out what to do with him. So gosh.
You test him, you
decided-
bust him, if
Oh, yes.
you send it to
Failed
court, was that
miserably.
done? Probably.
And so they decided to terminate him, didn't they, Deborah? I'm not sure.
Well, they terminated it? Okay, well, at least they did the right thing. No, there's a problem, and I pity the people with the problem. It's just like anything in this country. You got a large drug problem, and whose fault is it? It's not the dealers. It's the people using it. So I have, being a retired law enforcement, I have less respect for the user than the dealer. The dealer's just entrepreneur taking advantage of it.
So if there's marijuana, there's more.
Well, here's one for you so that you know. If you drive across that state line, Ontario's known as the capital, drug capital of Idaho. You go in the parking lot there, I got 7 out of 10 cars have Idaho license plates.
I drive over there quite often, and there's that Burke River right there in Ontario off the freeway. And I stopped to get through that little truck stop the other day, and there was 23 cars in their parking lot, and 19 of them had Idaho plates.
So what I'm saying is they, over there, they're at a place, that's probable cause for a law enforcement officer here, for an informant to call that plate in and then be stopped on the highway. That's PC. Well, it's a felony for interstate transportation of marijuana. They could get a lot of, and unfortunately, from what I'm talking to ISP, those guys tell me most of them are California transplants that are doing it.
Hey, can I bring something up? This question about the road, the little boy thing that, you know.
Yeah, I don't want to take too long
I know.
to bring it up because I want to
Folks, it's just,
get these
the only way
guys.
to break it is what's in here right now.
Yeah.
That's what I mean for people. That's how you break it. You gotta start getting rid of it. So, that's just.
Well, you know, you got to get involved, and look how few people showed up for this. You really, you people care, but do you think anybody else cares about our politics or what's going on in our county or state? And that's a problem. You got to go out and personally start knocking doors and talking to people and spreading the word, because if you don't, this is a critical year coming up in our whole history. That's how serious it is.
It's easy for them to send out flyers. My mailbox is full of flyers. Every day of people running for, but we don't know them.
And that's a problem. You know what Oregon does, I noticed? I just saw a flyer the other day. They print a paper, and it tells about their history. Most of them, like in these areas in East Oregon, it says rancher or farmer on there. But then it goes into education about them and all that. Even if the governors love them. Why don't we have that here?
That still doesn't tell you about their political.
Because you don't know, does anybody know who Baker is that's running for this district? I've never seen him, met him, or anything. Well, I think if you get a chance, put him in for the, not for the commissioner, but put him in that position to get rid of the guy that's in there now. We had a wonderful gal that I'm going to introduce next who done more work as the Republican Central Committee head than anybody since I've been here, which is 8, 9 years, ever. She done more in a year than any of them done in 8, 9 years. And they booed her because she wouldn't endorse Marla Lawson and wouldn't accept that. Well, I wouldn't either, because we got better candidates. You pick the best candidate, and the way it works is the Republican Central Committee goes by the majority has to agree, but he was running around trying to force people to endorse her. Now, I asked myself why.
Not majority, it has to be unanimous.
Unanimous, not majority, but unanimous. And that's what's going on, and if we don't fix it, it's going to get worse. So with that being said, I'll be hanging around for questions after, but I want to get into it. So the next person is not a candidate. She'd like to speak a few minutes. If it's okay with the candidates, I'll introduce Jean.